All right. Looks like it's recording. Okay, awesome. So we'll give like 30 seconds and then we'll get started. I do see people like trickling in. So thank you folks for joining. Where are you guys joining from? I do see some familiar names. But just wanted to ask, Sophia, where are you joining from? Amit, Henri, Cambridge, Boston, NC. Awesome. And what we're going to do as well, if you guys have any questions at the end of the session, post your question in the chat and we'll leave like 10 minutes at the end of the fire chat. So you guys have, questions, we can take those as well. All right. I see Roser, Pamela, Shreya. All right, folks. I think we can get started, Cody, as people are trickling in. So thank you so much, Cody Jung, for joining us in our fireside chat. Meet Cody Jung. He is the dynamic tech visionary behind FounderWay.ai product, a groundbreaking platform dedicated to simplifying the businesses and how you can build your business with an impressive track record of managing and scaling engineering team both in Fortune 500 companies as well as startup A series startups. Cody brings about like 7 years of experience in startup ecosystem, and he is a mentor, founder, micro investor, you name it. His journey has fueled the passion for teaching and empowering, and with his innovative spirit and dedication to helping entrepreneurial success, which has led to the creation of FounderWay. So thank you so much, Cody, for joining us. We would love to get your insights and you would love to know about your journey as a founder.
Yeah, so I guess you kind of touched on it, but let's see, like my journey as a founder, it's as you mentioned, I've done a bunch of stuff here and there, and so I guess let's see, I'd say probably my experience of entrepreneurship specifically, we'll say, started when I was growing up. So my parents actually owned an auto parts store in Brooklyn, in New York City, or I guess the Brooklyn, New York, the borough of New York City, and so it was all I really understood for entrepreneurship was like these main street businesses, because like you're there, you're on in this area where there's tons of like mom and pop shops basically. So that was like my idea of what is entrepreneurship. And it wasn't until my last semester at Georgia Tech where I went for mechanical engineering, where I was like, hey, I want to do a finance certificate just to kind of broaden my knowledge. And in that last semester, I took an entrepreneurial finance course. And that is basically when things started clicking, where I was like, wait, I can build stuff to help people, and it can be like technology minded. And if I get it to a certain point, I can go to investors and they'll like fund my company. And that's where I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is what the tech startup scene is. And I'm not sure if everybody has had this experience, but because I never really knew anybody in this space, I didn't really think it was a thing until literally this course. And that course basically changed my entire trajectory, where, yeah, I got hooked on just innovation and trying to solve problems.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how, like the auto parts, right? You mentioned you had a family business. How did it definitely like seeing your parents, working in the, like a small business or, their own startup. How did it also fuel like, seeing that, okay, I want to have something on my own, and you use your mechanical engineering background, your finance background, and, entrepreneurship. Like how did that framed you to be
So
very
I think let's see. So I think if you're a part of like an Asian family, there's like this the joke is like you have to be a doctor or an engineer. So I checked one of those boxes off, and it was weird because like you see entrepreneurship happening from your parents, but they want something more stable, and so they push you to do like a more stable job that would hopefully pay well, and so I actually didn't really want to be an entrepreneur. Like my goal was to build rockets or like to build cool stuff. That's like go to space basically. Like I wanted to put stuff into space. That was my goal. I took this class and I was like, wait a second. There's this whole other side where like you can make like a good living. It doesn't have to be not stable. like especially if everyone's dream, if you have a great idea and it takes off, like it could be better than being an engineer, or you could still be an engineer and do this thing. So I hope that kind of answers the question of like, I didn't actually set out to be one. Literally this class changed everything for me, which
That's
is pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like, it's an accident, right? As you said, like, it just like happened because you had that passion and you brought that passion. Like, not, and I could relate because it's not just like about being a engineer or doctor or lawyer, but like how you can follow your passion, like how you find that path to next, like what you want to do, something different in the ecosystem. With that, like, I know you said you have different experiences, right? You are like a mentor and founder, micro investor. How do you think, like, after you done with the schooling and you are like a mentor, you have spoken to like, hundreds of like founders, how that had really shaped you as well as a person, and how that has helped you with the founder way?
Yeah. So if it helps kind of bring some color, so when I graduated school, I actually went straight into like a full-time professional job. So I did technical sales, and I was the number one outbound person for the Northeast regional office of this automation company called B&R Industrial Automation. It got purchased by ABB, and so this is kind of part of their like the strategy for B&R was like, hey, we want to grow this region for direct sales. So I was their number one outbound person, and in 3 years, I helped them 3x their team and became not only the sales team lead but the engineering team lead. So that had a huge shaping of like just like, okay, this is what sales is. This is like how you lead people. This is how you work with others to get like these big automation and like industrial automation projects like completed. And then of course that's where I went into like after that I did Series A business development management, where it's more like building process and building like the funnel and meeting folks, and how do you kind of make that into a process that's like I never had that opportunity. So those were like those lessons that I learned and throughout this whole time I was part-time working as either a founder trying to start something on the side, a mentor, or a micro investor. So maybe to add some context of like, okay, I have all this like experience, but I don't look very old. So that's how like basically I did a lot of things at the same time because I wanted to keep building and trying stuff on my own and stay fresh and help others through this process. And so in terms of how it shaped me, um, basically a lot of patience. So like a lot of my career has been like the first person doing something. And so trying to be like, okay, I'm starting this process, or like even the person above me who's managing me has not really done this before. Right. So it's like working with everybody where it's like we're all kind of starting from ground zero, even if we don't think we are. Like there's always new stuff that will not have encountered when mentoring folks. It's the same thing, people can be like really experienced in their field or like building a business but need help elsewhere. And so there's like this patience that you kind of get ingrained with like helping people, right? Like what makes a good teacher? Being really patient. So that's kind of where it shaped that. Because I did so much at the same time, having a process and staying organized is definitely like how I work. I talk to people and I show them my notes and they're like, what the heck? Like, this is crazy. So a lot of my life lives off of like to-do lists and things like that. And let's see, I guess having and kind of doing all this stuff also, by the way, help build like a lot of empathy for everybody that I'm talking to. So like, I think I mentioned like I was a founder, but I also micro invest, right? So it's like having the empathy for both sides and understand what is the goal of both sides in these conversations is super helpful. That I think it gets lost on the other side a lot. So like if you're an investor and you haven't operated a company before, or the flip, you're a founder and never talked to an investor before, you lose a little bit of like the how you talk to that person and what are their goals. Like that gets lost in all of like the media that you read about like startups in venture capitalists. So that's how I'd say like it shaped me and like my approach.
Oh, no, that's amazing. So I know you said you were like working in tech sales, and sales, it's not easy. Like you have to put yourselves in customer shoes and understand like, what really they want, and curate your, the delivery of the product and services, right? And you mentioned like while you were working, you were also working on the founder way as a side hustle. Is that So what would you suggest, like for people, like I'm sure like there are founders and entrepreneurs, because people do that, like lots of founders are like, I want to maintain my full-time job, but also I want to dedicate on my, like side hustle, my ideas. What's like the right time for, so for example, for FounderWay, when did you decide like, okay, this is where I want to, dedicate my time. Like this is where I want to focus on. I want to, just
Mm.
build my startup.
So the typical answer I would tell somebody is if you've gotten like a sale for your company, I think, and you're able to manage, like I think a lot of this is like your personal finance. Like, is your personal financial situation able to support you for as long as you think you will need, and then double it because usually you underestimate, and there's always like unexpected things in life where it costs money to get through that challenge. So I think personal finance is ultimately the decider here, like can you or can't you. And then the second thing is more the idea, right? Like, is the idea you're working on um, like valid? Like, have you validated the assumptions of your idea that would make it successful? Like, a great way to validate is just like how many signups are you getting, right? Or if you do have a platform, how many users do you have? Are any people paying? So these are all indications of like you have an idea that you might be able to make a living off of. I think at the end of the day, that's like, unfortunately, we need money to exist in our society and to be like, to like survive. So that's kind of like the ultimate decider. So trying to find the validation to see if it can make you enough money to survive off of. So I think that's how I would frame that for somebody looking to make the jump.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's a great insight and advice because people like do struggle with that. Like, when should I be, making or working on my startup? This leads to like how, you touched upon like validating the customers, right? Like, let's talk about what were the main points of the gap you saw in the market that had led to FounderWay.ai product.
Yeah. So I'd say from my perspective, and I want to also include my co-founder's perspective in this, because we met and decided to start working together because of the shared gap that we both saw. And so I'm coming at this from like I'm a founder. I'm kind of exist in the ecosystem. I was been trying to get help to figure out what to do, get guidance, get resources. And as I mentored folks, I was starting to see that it wasn't getting easier for people. And like, to put it like, my journey had its challenges, but I also came out of like a class taught by like a very renowned venture capital person in Atlanta, Georgia, from my school, right? So like that was like where I was starting, and it was still a struggle. And I know that there's people who didn't have this class or have no access to class or mentors, and that struggle's even harder. And I didn't see anything out there to really help. And people will say like, well, there's Google. You just go Google the resource or go read blogs and stuff. It's like most of the stuff in the like 0 to 1 or idea to first customer where people really struggle and you don't do that right, you have lots of other issues that start happening later on. Like, those things are not really great. Like, they're so general and very like hard to say like, okay, what do I follow? Like, there's like 10 articles on how to do this one thing, right? Like, how, as a new founder, how do I figure this out and relate it back to my situation? And I saw that that was the gap. And my co-founder, Kiran Gajwani, she's been like building ecosystems. She helped build like the Ontario startup ecosystem and parts of the Toronto one. And she, after working with all these accelerators and grants and things like that, she started seeing like, hey, this is great. We're helping people, but we can't help everyone. And what happens to those people that get turned away from the ecosystem for whatever reason, right? Like, there's just not enough there. And so we basically came at this from different sides, but the same pain point was found, which is, how do you help somebody in this idea to first customer when there's not really much there? And a lot of folks turn them down because they're too high risk for the programs. These programs want to return or get investors for the companies. And if they're too early, they don't make it, right? They don't make this cut. And so that's the hole that we found. And just a statistic to really kind of drive this home. The U.S. average for an accelerator acceptance rate is about like, accelerator is about 2%. and an incubator is I think is floating around 2% as well. So there's like 98% of people on average that are just left out to dry, and it's like, okay, well, what do you do with these people? Like, how do you help them? So yeah, that's the gap that we found.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. It's very like there are so many people and so many ideas, but they don't have that path or one platform they can explore, right? You mentioned about you found your co-founder. Like, how would you suggest? Like, because I think that's one of the things founders or entrepreneurs or solo entrepreneurs they struggle with, like finding a tech founder, business founder. Like, how do they go about it? So, do you have any insights about like
Ooh.
find? Yeah.
This is a touchy subject because it's like really hard to do, and it's like you'll get tons of advice from different folks. I think part of this is a personal thing, like how do you meet people and how do you figure out if somebody is like, do you like being around them? Like there will be times where things get really busy and you will spend more time with your co-founder than like your loved ones. Like it's just part of the the job, unfortunately or fortunately, right? So I think like how you vet people that you want to be with is really important. I think Kieran and I did called co-founder dating. Like we did meetings together and tried to work with each other for like a couple months before we put anything onto paper. Like we started trying to see how do we work together. And I think that's really important. Like a trial period is always really helpful and to set that expectation. Like, hey, this is a trial period first. And even before that, if we're trying to advice on like how to find folks, I think you need to put yourself out there, right? Talk about what you want to build. Go to events in the industry that you want to impact. These every people like you have to like find the right people, and the only way to do that is to kind of put yourself out there or the idea that you're trying to get people to rally around. And this is actually a really good lesson for anyone with an idea because being a founder is all about selling, right? So whether it's selling to get a new co-founder or a team member, an investor, a partnership, like all of this is selling. And so it's if you can't get somebody to join your team, that is like red flag number one for most investors, just to be honest. Like if you can't find that person and can't figure that out, that means either your idea is bad or how you're selling the idea is bad. So one of those is a lot easier to fix, obviously. But yeah.
That's amazing. I was talking like to someone, and they were like, "Oh, we spent like 2 years just to find a co-founder, and that's a long time, right? Like how you can sell the ideas, or how you can communicate, like this is what I'm doing, and bring that those two ideas together, the vision and mission. I think that's very important. So, this also brings up like another question that I had, like, what's your vision, like FounderWay that AI is trying to help early stage founders or the founders who need it. So what's your vision for the FounderWay? Like, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, where do you see it?
Yeah, so I think I'll start with like our current mission is really just to make business building simple. And we want to do that by leveraging the knowledge people have about their business and the AI tools that are here and like make these like really instant value tools is what we're kind of like coining the phrase where we have like all this information about you. AI can like make the leap and do a lot of stuff that normally you have to have a person into. So why can't we build some really cool tools where you click a button and what's something that would take you 30 minutes or an hour to do, the AI just does it for you. And like if you do this for like a whole bunch of tasks, I think the number is like you could help someone like say like 30% of their time. And if you do that every single day, you're basically like doubling your available time like every week or something like that. So like there's a lot of impact here, and we all know that time is the hardest resource for founders to manage because it's just you only have a finite amount, whether that's your runway or
Yeah.
time in the day to complete a task, right? So it's always a race against the clock, and if we can give you more time, hopefully that means you'll have a better chance at success.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess you had the second part of your question was the 5 year.
Yeah. Down the line, where do you see like, helping? I know this is like an early stage, but where do you see like it's going to help like the startup ecosystem in general?
Yeah, so this may touch on some like our ideas of how AI and business will end up becoming. But so over the next kind of like 5 years, I mean, our focus is right now at this early stage, like the 0 to 1. What we hope to be able to do is build enough tools and build out a platform where we're growing with you. So the platform becomes like goes from your advisor on like how to like go from 0 to 1 to more of like your strategy or like a still advisor, but around like product market fit and making sure like, hey, you got one person, what's the next piece? Like, what is this product market fit? How do you then like operationalize all of this, your startup? So we're hoping to grow our platform with folks where we are basically your you know, like your chief strategists around each area, and we hope to grow into each stage as we mature as well.
That's great. And are you guys like, is FounderWay generic, meaning like, is it for specific industries or any industry, like any founder from, any
Yeah,
idea that? Yeah.
so we are more geared towards like a tech startup co-founder, or sorry, a tech startup founder. There are things in there that will indicate that, but at the same time, what I will say is the 0 to 1 is also a very critical point of anybody's business building, and where we have seen people use our platform that are not tech co-founders, where they've gotten a lot of I guess like advice and like help around how do I set up, like how do I think about my business, even if it's a Main Street business. But I will say our target like customer is a tech co-founder or a tech founder.
Yeah, and that's great. I know I was playing around with the product, which I really like. There are like three different kinds of role, right? As it's focused more on the tech side, like, anyone who is from the product background or technical, technology background or design, they can use it and they can curate what kind of information they're looking for, right? So can you talk more about like how FounderWay.ai, what are the features that the early stage founders are using that help them to, go from A to B? How those features help them, and if you can just elaborate more on those.
Yeah, totally. So we together, my co-founder and I have, let's see, we have worked with over 1,500 companies, and we've mentored, I think, over 200 different founders, in total together. So there's a ton of information that we kind of have and have been using to try and set up this platform. And one of the key things that we got out of this was, what are the first principle questions that you need to answer as a founder to be successful? And so that is like, I think it doesn't seem like that big of a feature, but is a key feature because the rest of the platform is built around supporting you on either exposing you to these questions or helping you refine your answers to these questions. So for an example is we have like a step-by-step guidance that takes you through the questions in an order that we've seen promote success, and it's like how you would organically get to these questions. But you usually have to be asked the question in order to see like that's what you're working on. And the fact that we're asking you the question promotes you to do the work that's needed. So whether that's research, talking to customers, the building, the planning, like the questions are made to help you know like what is the action that needs to be done. And we built, once you have a response, we have AI feedback that you can workshop your answers to. So we've had somebody actually use our platform to help them prepare for investor calls that they were going to do. And they said that it actually helped them sharpen their responses and catch questions that they weren't even considering. And that helped them close their, I think it was a 250 pre-seed round, 250K pre-seed round.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so exactly. So I think that's something that's really awesome. And then the AI Copilot is kind of like or the next thing. It sits on top of all this. So as you kind of work through and figure out your business and tell us and the answers and workshop those answers, we use those questions or the responses to those questions to help inform the AI and personalize it. So I think if you were like, you can ask the AI about pricing, for instance. And so we have over 40 plus generated prompts. So you don't have to figure out the prompt. So you can do like, how would you ask an AI about pricing, right? Like we've already figured that out. And then we know all about your business that we can give you a really thorough response that you would expect from like an advisor or somebody else that's mentoring you, where you can just get that. And that's like an amazing starting point is what we hear. In some cases, we also, we've heard that, so like the Boston startup weekend that you all hosted, I think it was like last month or something like that, the winner actually used our platform through and through. They used the Copilot to create survey questions and interview questions so they can reach out to their target audience to figure out the answers and to validate their idea. And they actually won. So, and they said it had just helped them move a lot faster. So that's like, those are the features and kind of like the use cases for each of the features.
No, that's great because trust me, like if I'm a founder and entrepreneur, I don't know what kind of question I should be asking, right? Because you have to go and, provide different kinds of elevator pitch, like to an investor, to your customers, to like maybe another businesses. And I think FounderWay is helping that, like bridging that gap, like, just tell us what's your businesses, what kind of pricing you want. And I think based on the database or based on the gathering, you guys have, spoken with like so many like founders, you provide that insight so the founders can make decisions, like, okay, these are the questions I should be asking, right?
Right.
What kind of like so that's an amazing service, I guess. When I talked to like a couple of founders, they were like, we don't even know how to present ourselves sometimes to entrepreneurs or investors, or how do we go about and check like product market fit, right? So in that case, how do you see FounderWay differentiates from any other competitors, or if there are like any similar platforms, like what stands out from the FounderWay platform?
Yeah, so I'd say one of the biggest things is we've done a lot of research into how founders learn, and I think this is something that's overlooked is that founders typically don't want to learn. Like we don't go into something typically for just the learning experience. There's usually like we're learning because of this, or we're learning something by doing something. I think most entrepreneurs are geared towards action, and so we've tried to design our UI and UX as much about like I call like almost like accidental learning, where you're doing something and you're learning because you had to answer this question, or you go into our prompts, right? And you can see like, hey, I'm working, I want a product. I'm working on my product. So let's see what's the prompts that are here. And you can see all these other generated ones. So you start thinking like, oh, this one's about pricing. This one's about prototyping. Like, what are these other things that are here that you're starting to see? And so that's how we're hoping to kind of like bridge the gap a little bit, where it's not so much do this course or these are the 5 steps to do X thing. It's okay, I should start thinking about this because I didn't even know I should be thinking about this. And I think that's something that really separates us from other platforms. And the other side is, again, our goal is to get this instant value where we're trying to build as many tools as possible where you can leverage AI without having to figure it out, like having to figure out the prompt, right? Like, how do I ask the question? Having to figure out what is the key pieces of data that I need to give it to do this activity. If we can remove that away from the founder, we think that will create another big, I guess, a differentiator for us, where a founder just clicks a button and they get the output that they want, and for whatever activity that they're trying to do.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's also like helping and part of like mentoring, right? It's like the platform is also helping as a mentor and making you think like, okay, you have this kind of questions for your investors or for your customers. You should also be thinking other kind of questions, which you want that insight, right? That's what the founders want. You mentioned like the resources, right? I was looking at the platforms. So do you guys also like provide resources? Let's say if I'm a founder and entrepreneur, along with those AI co-pilot, what kind of like
Oh,
resources do you provide? Like I think that's an amazing
yeah, thanks.
yeah.
That's so true. So we also have like you can ask us for coaching. We try to provide this service as like an extremely affordable option. So it's I think we are at $59 an hour for a 1 hour call, which is if you actually talk to anybody who's tried to get a coach, it's usually like $100 minimum an hour. So we're trying to like help by also and like do a little bit of a discount as much as we can to make it like, again, this is like people time, so we do have to ask for some payment. But so like that's one feature that we do, that we get on calls with the people on our platform to guide them if they need more help. I think some people learn in different ways, and some people have strengths in certain areas and weaknesses in other areas, and we're just hoping to cover most of it with our platform. But we don't think you can just remove the human out of the loop completely. So we are here. And then we also have a lot of founder friendly tools. So we'll say like low cost, mostly free, but still high quality. So we have a curated list of partners and just other tools that we found or been told about that we're like, hey, like you should hear about this tool if you're doing, I don't know, like prototyping, right, or something like that, or trying to figure out, hey, you need like an outsourced person, like who have we worked with who provides quality at a price, at a good price. Like there's stuff here that we've curated this list for that hopefully will help founders, cover, do the rest.
Oh, no, that's great, and this leads to my another question, which is, since FounderWay is providing not only like making founders, entrepreneurs think like for them, like, hey, this is something you can do. These are the kind of questions, but these are also the resources, and you can talk to people and kind of mentorship. But how do you see? I know you mentioned one of the startups used your platform to curate those questions and surveys which they can send to the customers. How do you see the impact and success of FounderWay within the startup community?
I guess how we see it. So I think like, kind of going back to like our roots, our whole thing is like it's really hard to do this, like to build a company, to start a company, and a lot of it is like the problem is there's a lot of gatekeeping around knowledge, and so for us, like right now at least, like we think having impact means having users, because that means there's every user is a founder that we're hopefully able to help through this challenge that they're on for their journey, right? And we have a free tier, so I just want to put that out there for the audience. Like, if you're just curious, come join us. We have the step-by-step guidance is there for you to figure out what are the questions that you need to answer. There is there's a limited amount of chat sessions you can have, but and the AI feedback tool only will work on the first area, for example. But we think by having this like freemium model, we can help spread education and knowledge throughout the community. And I think that's somewhere where, again, I think everyone here knows the feeling where you get denied and you're like, okay, there's like, there's knowledge there, people, mentors that I can't access now. Like, what's the other option? And we're hoping to be that option. So in terms of like impact, and like we measure it as who's on the platform, because every user is someone that we can have a positive impact on.
Oh, no, that's amazing. And do you guys also like people how using the platform? So it's a freemium, right? Like, and based on, so I'm guessing, is it also for people, individuals, but also like business? Is it like more B2B, B2C? I'm guessing it's like B2C right now, but you're also trying to go towards B2B. Like, what's your
Yes.
take on that?
Yes. So right now it's, I guess it's funny, like a founder is technically a company. So how do we want to describe that? It's a little muddy, right? But we'll call, like, right now we're targeting single founders with, or in a company is themselves. We are working on a very I'll say like wanted feature for teams, so we can allow you to bring in your co-founder, your mentor, your advisor, and other folks. Like maybe you have like a team lead that's an outsourced person. Bring them in so that they can see the plan and help you build like some of the templates that we have right now, which is like the lean model canvas, for instance. Have these people join you and work together on this. So that's kind of our next step, which is kind of like the more B2B model. But yeah.
That's super helpful. Um, my other thing, like since we're talking about AI and your, FounderWay is more about like AI and everything about AI, and given that's a new and trending technology, how do you suggest startups effectively leverage AI, for their operations and improve their startup processes?
Yeah. So let's see. So some examples that I would put out there. So I mean, AI can help everywhere, right? So it's like sales, marketing, trying to prep for stuff, whether that's like role play or like editing, like trying to get not edits, but like suggestions on how to edit like an email or something like that. Um, it can help in all of these places, especially like data analysis is also a really cool place where I think now you just like upload a table to ChatGPT and have it give you insights by just asking it about the data that's there, right? I think a lot of founders that we talk to, the biggest thing is starting stuff is always like there's so much friction with starting something where, if you are trying to do like an outbound email, right? Ask ChatGPT or whatever our AI to write that for you as a draft. Ask our AI or some AI to do like, captions for your social media posts or social media post ideas, right? This brainstorming and getting started area of a founder's life is so overlooked, but it's also like the highest friction point. Like, and we do this every time we context switch as a founder, it's all that friction to restart to like get back into the mind frame of like, what am I doing? What's all the information I need to know to start this? When if you're leveraging like our platform where we're bringing all that together, you just ask it the question of like, I want to do this task. Give me ideas or how to start. And they'll start pulling stuff out for you. And hopefully, again, that 30% number is what we keep hearing. Like, hopefully it saves you 30% at least each day. So I think that's how I would recommend people leverage AI.
Yeah, no, that's great. Do you have any so it's like AI should be more to help you and move forward. It's not should not be, like scared of AI, right? What do you have any personal tools that you use, for your organization, tasks, or in general your favorite AI tools?
Yeah, so we do use our tool often for stuff. So I will say like we do the phrase like eat our own dog food, so to speak. So like we are using the product. There are some other tools that are more like, we're not pretending to be every tool, right? So there are other tools we leverage, like things that help us automate email sending, automate, reaching out to folks. So there's all these other tools that help with like sales and marketing that we use, tools that help analyze data. We're not there yet. We hope we will be soon. But like for now, we leverage these other tools to help us in all these areas to just move faster, process information faster, get started and do stuff faster, or do things in parallel. A goal of ours is actually to hit that point where we'll have agents where you tell our AI to do something, and whether it's a first party tool or agent or a third party integration, that it can start running this process for you. So we're hoping to get to that point, and that's where I think we're seeing some of it already built, and those are the tools we're trying to lean onto as well.
No, that's great, and I love the point you mentioned, like inertia, right? Like the initial resistance to get started, and I think using the AI tools to overcome those challenges and obstacle, and just move it. Like take one step, and you'll keep moving forward. I think that's where the platform really comes handy. With that, like I know currently, like there are so many AI tools, right? How and people might, founders or entrepreneurs, or in general, like people might think like why this like some of them like startups might be hesitant about using or integrating AI given the complexity and the cost. So how what would you suggest or give advice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the first thing I'd say this is that you don't really have a choice, unfortunately. If you're building a company, AI is here, and if you don't do it, you're going to get outcompeted. So whether that means not using it in your day to day internally, or adding it somewhere to help your product stand out, and it's not going to be in every product, right? But at least inside internally, your company needs to be using these tools. It's an unfortunate part of trying to be innovative and being on the cutting edge. So there's that piece. I would say there is, AI. Part of it is also you have to look at it as an investment, not necessarily a cost. It really is, right? Like you're getting, like I say, if it's 30% of your time back each day, right? Imagine like what is the cost that it's saving you for basically adding another person to your team, right? The other side is like there are tons of technology right now out there to explore where you can either lean on it for your internal stuff also, or for external, where like Azure and for Microsoft, I think Google has, I don't remember their programs. I think it's just like part of their Google Cloud program for Gemini. Like these tool chains are building it to make it easier to like set up the infrastructure. I think for folks that know AI, like setting up a RAG flow, like most of these platform providers have a tool chain now that you can take advantage of, right? That's like everyone is trying to build to make the developer's life easier so that they would use their platform to base their product on. So there's like a big push here. And I think there's already been big strides. So for anyone who hasn't looked in a couple of months, I would take a look again. Like the stuff changes almost every other month, or if not every week sometimes. and look for credits. All these like Microsoft Startup Hub, that's what we're part of. Google has like a Google Clouds program. AWS has their own startup credit program. Like you can get a lot of free credits to start like tinkering and figuring out like how to use and implement AI.
Yeah, no, that's great. Right? There's so much knowledge available. Like people can just go and use it and get informed about like what it means, Gen AI, AI ethics, and on those different things if they are not familiar. Given because founders are may not be from tech background, right? But that does not stop them to not use AI.
Yeah.
In that case, like how would you suggest the AI trends shaping the future of startups and the broader entrepreneurial landscape?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I think in general, the way I see this moving is that like everybody is going to adapt AI. It's like one of those muscles that we're starting to see like people just saying, just go ask ChatGPT. Like that used to be Google it, right? And then you figure it out, right? Now it's like, go ask ChatGPT or go ask the AI. And the AI now does the search and comes back with like a condensed response for you, right? So like, I think we're going to see a lot of people leveraging AI to save with their data and time to help it be more impactful. Um, I think I kind of touched on this. Like we're going to see more high level AI orchestrating lots of like controlling or like other AIs that are more niche focused, right? So like whether we are controlling other AI or we're being pulled into like your AI assistant about your business, right? Like, hey, like my personal AI, tell me about my business. How's it going? Or like, what tasks should I do? It might ask our AI to give a report, right? So we see kind of this like interesting like AI chains starting to be built in like you can always already see like Copilot, I think for Microsoft, you can ask it to make a song and it will reach out to a third party, another AI that it's aware of, and that AI will put the song together, and then it will send it to the Copilot, and the Copilot will show it to you, and you can listen to that song in your chat feed without ever leaving that chat stream. So we're already seeing that happening, and that also highlights something. I love this quote from Naval. He's the founder of AngelList. He believes that the world is going to be a bunch of startups all working together, where like there's not going to be as many of these like big megacorps and like we already even see big megacorps starting to like fire people because AI is making them allowed to like run leaner, right? And
Yes.
so we're going to get like these smaller like size companies just all working together and doing the stuff like outsourcing all like the things that we think are like should be internal, like just being outsourced to people, and the AI is kind of managing that knowledge transfer. I don't, for better or for worse, I guess. I think that I kind of agree with that quote and that outlook where more things are going to be AI to AI initially, with people coming in the loop when there's like trouble that it's like and was called like outlier situations, basically.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, right? Like that's something was lacking before AI, right? There was every different businesses were different. You never knew like how you can use and rather than reinventing the wheel, like you just use what it is. And I love that, how there it's like a one place where founders just go there, you just type something and you get that information from different sources. That's what people want. And that's how AI is trying to help, like, how you can be effective. You don't want to spend time like on 10 different platforms or 10 different things, how one platform is bringing and curating that information. So I love that. I would love that. I just use one place and give me all the information. I'm just gonna stick to it, right? Google was like that. So love it. How like AI is gonna shape and help people, and not should not like in general we should not be scared of AI, but use it to our advantage. How we can be more effective and efficient. Um, Another question that I had about was, what's your guidance like for founders seeking funding in today's market? Are there any specific strategies or particular thing you would
Yeah.
advise?
Yeah. So we still have our contacts as investors, contacts, other founders that we are talking to. I think right now the market is in a very cautious place for multiple economic reasons that probably don't have enough time to get into here. But what we're really seeing is like later stage kind of slowing down. So it's picking up, but it's slowed down big time. And because those valuations are tied to the possible exit valuations. So we're seeing like these down rounds start happening. We're seeing rounds that just go flat, for instance, and in the early stage, because of all this uncertainty and like capital people, like people who usually fund these firms and investors being able to like put their money elsewhere, we're seeing there is powder there, but people are trying to ration it more aggressively. And so we're seeing like the pre-seed and seed stages almost kind of combined a little bit, where the expectation, even at pre-seed, is that you should have some sort of revenue to show that your business model at least kind of works, right? So that's what we're seeing for sure. I mean, yes, you'll always hear about the person with the idea, but usually that person who got funded, either they, had a startup before that was successful, or they were able to like and use that investor connection. Hey, I made you money before. Do you want to bet on me again? And usually they will bet on that person again, even at an earlier stage, because they've proven themselves. So whether it's right or wrong, that's kind of the way it works on the investor side is, you need to have traction unless you've been in the industry and have proven yourself. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now, at least.
Yeah, and a last follow-up question on that, and then we can move on to other sections. But what about like founders who don't have any funding, and so or like they don't have that much tractions, but they do need some kind of funding? So would you suggest like investing from like family, friends, just to show that you're running, like you want to hire co-founder or hire a team just to build the website or something?
Yeah, so this is the tricky part about entrepreneurship. I mean, we say bootstrapping, and unfortunately, if you're bootstrapping, that's kind of the deal. You that's why I said earlier in this call, like the most important thing about making the jump is make sure your finances line up correctly. Like, can you run this company on your savings, right? Do you need to go, I don't know, like for a little bit, I was like, and even still sometimes I'll do like DoorDash and stuff like that just to make some more money to supplement, what I have. So it's like, as a founder, this part of the grit, unfortunately, is you have to find either a grant, credits to help run stuff, gig jobs, side gig jobs, or part-time work. I mean, it's not like a pretty answer, but I think this is the part of entrepreneurship that gets missed over in a lot of the media that romanticizes this profession, where when you're first starting out, there's a lot of hard work, and the grit isn't
I know.
necessarily taking the rejection, but being able to get over your pride of saying, I'm going to go Uber, for instance, to make
Exactly.
some cash because I want to go like eat something besides ramen. Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, this is part of the grit that people kind of don't talk about. But I think that's unfortunately, like, it's not a pretty answer, but that's how I would respond to that. And I would say if you have friends and family that you can lean on to do that investment, I mean, go for it. But just remember, like, make sure they're okay with losing all of their money,
Yeah.
right? You're still a startup and you're very early. If the only people you can get is friends and family, that means you're very early and high risk. So
Hmm.
just be aware to tell the family that, hey, if you invest 5K, that you might not get back that 5K. And just sort that out beforehand, because I can tell you, dealing sometimes and seeing stuff like having family involved with money and business doesn't always mix very well. And so, I think we've all seen the horror stories that can happen when people do that. So just be careful if you do that, is what I would say. That'd be my advice.
Yeah, no, that's amazing advice. Thank you, Cody, for shedding some more light on that. Like how people can go about. How do you? I know we have like 10 minutes left. I do want to give people. I do see some questions on the chat as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask one more question. Um, is there any final advice or encouragement you would give to the audience and aspiring, founders, entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So I can I don't typically do like really specific advice, just because it's like, I think advice is really situational. I can tell you like kind of the mantras that I live by, that I tell people that hey, this might be helpful for you. So there's two of them really. The biggest one is like, luck is something that you can. It's something you get exposure to. It's like you have to like put yourself out there to find the luck. So whether that's like networking events, just meeting people, helping people that need help, because you never know who they're connected to, or how, who knows, you help this person this month, they make a connection, and 3 months later that could help you like get over your challenge. Like just putting yourself out there is a great way to increase, I think, the buzzword that like these gurus are saying now is like your luck surface area or something like that. But basically, like just put yourself out there for opportunity so you can hopefully grab on when you see it. And the next thing is credibility. I think a lot of people don't understand that you're in a game of credibility. Like you exist. There's people around you. We're a social people, like, you know, a species of creature. We're all about credibility. So whether it's something you're doing or something you're about to do, you don't do, or you've already done, right? Like that shifts how people perceive you and can increase or decrease your credibility. And negative credibility outweighs a lots of positive credibility. So just having that in your mind when you go and do things and how you interact with people in the world, that's, I think, very powerful. So whether it's, you know, for business or personal, like try to be your best person, because everybody's judging you on credibility. And that luck piece, you might wrong the wrong person that could have been your unlock to your next thing. So I think overall, these both kind of lead to just be nice to people and be helpful. And hopefully, you know, it'll build your credibility and hopefully you'll get lucky.
Yeah, and I love that. It's you never know who's gonna, come your way and help you, and who's gonna be like your next co-founder maybe. So it's always good to have that, luck, yes, but credibility, like how you can just be there out there and help people. I love that. I do want to like go over our questions from the audience. So I'm just gonna go over. I think Pamela had a question. How did you get investor engagement using AI? Is it an email blast? If so, what was the rate of return and what was the process?
Yeah, so we are to clarify. So we're bootstrapped still. We haven't need to raise money yet, but I'll say we've done the research to prepare ourselves. We're in the space, so we are helping founders in this space. So I just want to put that like set that ground expectation. But we do have lots of exposure to this and help founders in this area. So for investor engagement using AI, well, the first thing I would say is you need to curate that list, because just blasting out impersonal things to investors is not the way to get in the door. If you can find ways to connect to those people through events or anything like people you may know as a second degree or third degree connection, like ask them for the intro, right? If you can, those are the best ways to get in. But if you are going to have to do some outbound always, and I would say you can use AI to help do some research around this stuff. Email, like again, automating these email messages. You kind of should treat these kind of as like a cold sales email where you need a lot of like it should at least follow up 2 more times after the first. So like a 3 email chain at the minimum. I've heard for sales, people are now at like 8 touch points is like where the average for conversion is. So just think about that for a little bit. Like you need to build your chain to that point. In terms of rate of return for like conversion, the number that we keep hearing from the folks that we talk to is like, you probably need to outbound to at least 150 investors that you've curated. So curated 150 list of investors to get X amount of meetings to close around. I think the average is maybe is probably closer to 200. So 150 to 200 is like your sweet spot where that's your goal of how many investors are on your list that you're about to start sending outbound to. Hopefully that helps. And oh yeah, I think I saw she is like, what is the process? So that would be the process is curate the list, personalize, like somehow make it so that you can get some personalized information. You can use AI to then build those emails for you, like at least the initial contact ones. Use a tool like HubSpot or MailChimp to automate like the follow-up, and yeah, basically use a calendar tool if you can. And I'd say so. And then she followed up for spam. I think if you curate it and have the subject good, you should be okay. Again, you shouldn't be blasting out like thousands of these. Really, the target is you should be curating a list of like 150 to 200 like minimum. And so I think just like any sales calls, cold email, they'll they should get through unless your email is flagged as spam by too many people. But I don't know if many investors will flag a founder's email as spam. I think they'll just put it away. I think if they do, that's really messed up. I'm not saying all founders are great people. I mean, not all investors are great people, but I would be really shocked if investors are marking cold emails as spam for you. Like, I think that's part of their job, is taking emails, right? So that's literally most of their job, is trying to filter through the emails and find opportunity in these the pitches and stuff.
Yeah, awesome. And let's go to the next question. What would you say that founders use AI to complement the work being done?
Let's see. So I think, let's see, a lot. So I mentioned like creating emails and things like that. I think that's a really good spot. I think most people have a lot of trouble starting emails. That's why, like, there's templates, for instance, on HubSpot, so you can just start your email off with a template. There's a lot of like this. We were calling it like blank box syndrome, where like you're just sitting there, you're staring at like a blank screen or like an input box, and you're like, what do I type? And using any situation where that's where you start, an AI, it will help you move so much faster through that area, because that's where everyone gets stuck. And then you get distracted because you're like, oh man, too much, like I don't want to think about this, and then your phone rings and now or a notification pings and now you're on Instagram or something, right? So like getting you through that first thing so you can get into the flow state faster is like what I would do. Like anything like that, any task like that is where I would recommend trying AI.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think that answers Amit's question as well. How can someone use AI while starting out? So I think you have already touched base on that. I know we have like 3 minutes left. Another question I have is, last question, how can people find you, Cody? So
Yeah, so if people want to follow me on social media, it's just my name. So it's Cody S. Jung, so Cody S and then Jung. I think I'm on every platform. As a founder, you kind of have to be exposed to all these things. So I'm there. I'm mainly on LinkedIn predominantly, if you want to kind of keep up with me there. And then, of course, you can find us on FounderWay. So founderway.ai. So FOUNDERWAY.ai. And I wanted to put out there for the people. Yep, thank you. Yeah, you put that in the link. I wanted to also mention, so we are running something called Coaching for Feedback, where we want to hear from other founders in exchange for monthly coaching. So, I touched on this, business coaching is typically $100 an hour minimum thing. We do provide that as a service, but we also are trying to start a program to get in touch with more founders to understand their challenges and the tools they want for us to help build. So if you're interested, ping me on like LinkedIn at just, like I said, Cody S. Jung. If you're interested there for our coaching for feedback, happy to work with you on a monthly basis in exchange for getting some feedback on the platform. And again, how we can help you with tools and things like that.
thank you so much, Cody. I think you have some messages as well. Thank you so much, folks, for joining, and Cody for sharing your amazing guidance and insights on your journey and how you're helping founders using FounderWay.ai. I think this is the thing that people need, the founders and startup ecosystem, to go from like A to B or A to Z. So thank you so much for taking time and sharing with the audience, and thank you so much, audiences, for joining us. I'll talk to you again. Thank you, folks.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thank you.